All right, we're getting started. Remember, he just is like out of luck, basically. Miss Hill moves to Chicago, and he just goes and sleeps underneath the Christmas tree. Is kind of where we're at. Chapter 8. Something stepped on a little stick. As soon as the twig cracked, my eyes snapped open, and I was wide awake. Has that ever happened to you? Like, you wake up in the middle of the night, and you're like so awake because you thought you heard something. I held my breath and kept as still as I could. Whatever it was sneaking up on me, knew I'd woken up because it stopped moving and kept as still as it could too. Even though my head was still under my blanket, I could feel two eyes staring at me real hard. And I knew these weren't critters' eyes. These were eyes made the hair on the back of my neck rise up the way only a human being eyes could. First off, fun fact, it's not a human being. It's a human being. It's not a human being. It's a human being. So that's silly. Without wiggling or jiggling around too much under my blanket, I got my fingers wrapped around my jackknife. Right when I was ready to push the covers off of me and start running or stabbing, whoever it was that had been watching jumped right on top of me. I was as trapped as a roach under a dish rag. I tried to guess the exact spot of the person's heart was at, then pulled my knife back. A voice said, "Hey, if you ain't a kid called Bug from the home, I'm really sorry about jumping you on like this." It was Bugs. Everyone remember Bugs? I told you we were going to hear about him. He was a kid from the home that had a cockroach that crawled in his ear, and that's how he was called Bugs, and like everyone was crazy loud. Cadence, I thought you were in Mrs. Jones's reading RTI. Cadence.
Miss Kneifel.
Yes. Yes.
Cadence was in Miss Jones reading RTI just for that one day because she didn't know where to put her because she was new that day.
Yeah, she's in your reading RTI.
Okay, well, I'm 100% sure Mrs. Jones said she was keeping her. But, well, now she just left my thing. Well, let me just take 5 seconds really quick. Hold on. Oh, as if I have time for this. Yeah, my email from Mrs. Jones said that she was keeping Cadence until they finished her book. So Cadence should be reading for AR. Okay? So someone in class tell Cadence she's reading for AR. That's what my email says. And if there's a problem with that, me and Mrs. Jones can figure it out on Monday. I'm going to keep on reading. When I tried to talk, it felt like I had to suck all the air out of Flint. I finally got breathing right and said, "Doggone it, Bugs, it is me. You nearly scared me to death." He got off of me and I threw my blanket over the side. "You don't know how lucky you are. I was just fixing to stab you in the heart." Bugs looked like he knew he'd just come real close call. He said, "I'm sorry, bud. I didn't mean to scare you, but everybody knows how you like to sleep with your knife open, so I figured I'd best grab hold of you so you wouldn't wake up slicing nobody." So apparently it's a common thing for him to just be sleeping with his knife open. Okay, I don't know. I mean, he's just real cautious about what's around him, apparently. "Paisley, put the pumpkin down and follow along. Logan, I want to see your face. Isabella, open your book and be following along." Shucks, even though it was Bugs who'd come real close to getting his heart poked, I was the one who was still having trouble catching my breath. I asked, "How come you aren't back at the home?" But before he had a chance to answer, I said, "You're on the lam." So now Bugs and Bud are both on the lam. Bugs said, "Yep, I'm going back to riding the rails. When I heard about you beating that kid up so bad that you had to take off, I figured it was time for me to get going too. I thought you might be hanging around the library, so I come down to see if you wanted to go with me." "Where are you heading?" "There's always fruit to be picked out west. I heard we can make enough money to get by out there. There's supposed to be a train leaving sometime tomorrow." "Did you really beat up that kid in the foster home?" I said, "Uh-huh. We kind of had a fight." "How long does it take you to go out west?" Bug said, "Depend on how many trains you gotta hop." "Was he really 2 years older than you?" "Uh-huh. He was 12. Is it fun to hop trains?" "Some of the time it is. Some of the times it's scary." "We heard he was kind of big too. Was he?" I said, "He was pretty big. I can't see how we can hop on a train. They look like they're moving pretty doggone fast." Bug said, "Most of the times you don't hop on them when they're going fast. Most of the times you try to climb on one when it's sitting in the train yard. Did the guy cry after you whooped him? Well, kind of. He looked real scared. Then he told his mama to keep me away from him. They even said I was a hoodlum. Will we be sleeping on the train and everything? Sure we will. Some of the time the train doesn't stop for 2 or 3 days. Man, I always tell people that just because someone's skinny don't mean they can't fight. You're a hero now, bud. Nah, I don't really do nothing much. Well, how about the toilet? How you going to use the toilet if the train don't stop? Bug said, you just kind of lean out the door and go. When the train is still moving? Yeah, you get a real nice breeze. Oh man, that sounds great. Count me in. I can't wait. So, literally, Bud are kind of having a different conversation. Bugs is all worried about him beating up the kid, and Bud is all just like trying to get questions about riding the rails. So apparently that's what Bugs used to do. It means he used to train hop, and that is definitely was a common thing because people didn't really have access to cars and transportations and stuff, so they'd sneak onto train cars, just like trains we have today. They'd sneak onto them where because there's not people in all the cars, just the engines, and they would go to wherever the next place was. So apparently they're going to be trying to hop on a train together. Bug spit a big glob in his hand and said, I knew I could depend on you, Bud. I spit a big glob in my hand. We're brothers forever, Bugs. We slapped our hands together as hard as we could and got our slobs all mixed up real good. Then waved them in the air so they'd dry. Now it's official. I officially had a brother. First off, that's gross. Definitely don't do that nowadays. Bug said, we'll go down to the mission. There's bound to be someone there that knows about where we can hop on the train. Then we'll be on the lam together. We found out we'd have to go to a city called Hooperville, just outside of Flint. The only trouble was nobody knew exactly where Hooperville was. It was dark before we found the right direction. I'd never heard of the city that was so doggone hard to find. We walked on a trail through some woods that run right up against Thread Creek. It's Crick. We could tell we were getting close to Hoopersville because we heard somebody playing a mouth organ and the smell of food cooking was getting stronger. We kept walking in the direction that the sky was glowing with the orangest light. A mouth organ would be like a harmonica or something. When we could hear the music real clear, the folks talking to each other and the sound of sticks cracking in the fire, we started cutting through the trees. That way we could peek into Hooperville first. We looked out from behind a big tree and saw that a big wind and We looked out from behind a tree and saw that a big wind or even 2 or 3 big wolves huffing and puffing real hard could blow Hoopersville into a next county. A bunch of huts and shacks thrown together out of pieces of boxes and wood and cloth. The almost as shed would have looked real fancy house out here. Right near our tree was a big fire that had been lighting up the sky. It looked like 100 people were sitting around it, watching things burn and waiting for the food to cook, and 3 big pots set up in the fire. There were 2 littler fires burning in Hoopersville. I don't know if it's Hopperville or Hooperville. Let's call it Hooper. One had a pot that was big enough to boil a whole person in it. A man was stirring things in the pot with a big stick. Then he raised the stick up and pulled some breeches or shirts out and passed it to a white man who was hanging the clothes on a line. There was a mountain of clothes on the ground next to him waiting for their turn. So what they're doing, why is their clothes in a pot? That's how they're cleaning them. Like they are boiling the water, so they're putting the clothes in there, and it's like cooking, hot water gets rid of germs and stuff. So someone's doing the laundry. And they're saying, he said, it looks like wolves could blow it down, meaning like it's just like random shacks and stuff put up, and it looks like someone could just blow it over. The other fire in Hooperville was real small. It was off to the side by itself. There were 5 white people sitting at this fire with 2 kids, a man and a woman holding a little wrapped up baby. The baby sounded like all the new sick babies at the home. It was coughing like a half dead little animal. Bugs whispered, shoot, this ain't no city. This is just a cardboard jungle. Oh, what? A cardboard jungle. Somewhere you can get off the train and clean up and get something to eat without the cops chasing you out of town. I said, well, what are we going to do? We can't just bust into the city and expect anyone to feed us, can we? Bug said, one of us has got to talk to him. Let's flip for it. So it's not really an actual town. It's just like a little makeshift little shanty town. There's just people congregating in the woods and they're calling it a town, which is why it was so hard to find, because it's not a real place. It's just people in the woods meeting up to clean themselves and cook some food before they hop on the next train. And apparently that's called the cardboard jungle. Okay, now you know something new. Okay. Bugs rambled around in his pocket and found a penny. He rubbed it against his breeches and said, heads I win, tails you lose. Okay. He flipped the penny into the air and caught it, then slapped it down on the back of his left hand. He peeked underneath his right hand to see the big smile crack across his face. Shucks. Bugs said, tails you lose. Dang. So what should I say? Ask them that this is Hoopersville. See if they got any extra food. I moved out from behind our tree and walked towards the biggest fire. I waited until some folks noticed me, then said, excuse me, is this here Hooperville? The man who was playing the mouth organ stopped, and everyone else around the fire looked up with me. One of the white men said, is that what you're looking for? I said, a city called Hooperville, sir. They all laughed. The mouth organ man said, nah, son, what you're looking for is Hooverville with a V, like the president, Herbert Hoover. I said, oh, is this it, sir? The man said, this is one of them. I said, one of them? He answered, they're all over the country. This here is the Flint version. And all of them are called Hooverville? That's right. Mr. Hoover worked so hard at making sure every city has got one of them. It seems like it would be criminal to call them anything else. Someone said, that's the truth. I said, well, how's we going to know if we're in the right one? The mouth organ man said, are you hungry? Yes, sir. Are you tired? Yes, sir. Are you scared of what's going to happen tomorrow? I didn't want anyone to think I was a baby, so I said, not exactly scared, sir. Maybe a little bit nervous. The man smiled and said, well, son, any place where there's other folks in need of the same things that you are is the right place to be. This is exactly the Hooverville you're looking for. So it's actually Hooverville, named after President Herbert Hoover. And apparently he's at the right place. I knew what the man was trying to say. This was the exact same kind of circle talking and cross talking that Mama used to do. Bugs hadn't had that kind of practice. He came from behind the tree and said, I didn't get it. You said there were Hoovervilles all over the place. If you were looking for the Hooverville in Detroit or Chicago, how could this be the right one to be in? The man said, you boys from Flint? I said, yes, sir. The man waved his mouth organ like a magic wand and pointed to the little cardboard city. Boys, he said, look around you. The city was bigger than I thought. The raggedy little huts were in every direction you looked. And there were more people sitting around than I first thought too. Mostly it was men and big boys, and there were a couple of women every now and then and a kid or two. And there were all the colors you could think of, black, white, and brown, but the fire made everyone look like they were different shades of orange. There were dark orange folks sitting next to medium orange folks, sitting next to light orange folks. All these people, the Mouth Morgan man said, are just like you. They're tired, hungry, and a little bit nervous about tomorrow. This here is the right place for y'all to be because we're all in the same boat. And you boys are nearer to home than you'll ever get. Someone said, amen, brother. The mouth organ man said, it don't matter if you're looking for Chicago or Detroit or Oklahoma for Orlando or Oklahoma City. I rode the rails to all of them. You might think or might hear that things are better just down the line, but they're singing the same sad song all over the country. Believe me, son, being on the road is no good. If you two boys are from Flint, this is the right Hooverville for you. Someone said, brother, why don't you feed these boys? And that one looks like he ain't eaten in 2 or 3 months. Shucks, he didn't have to point it out or nothing. Everybody knew who he meant. Remember, Bud's real thin, and, he doesn't like to be called that. So they're just having a grand old time. Not really. But this man's like, yeah, you're in the right place, dude. Like, life's rough. So everyone else here's having a rough life, too. So you better just, hang on out. But I didn't care. The food that was bubbling up in the 3 big pots even sounded delicious. The mouth organ man said, you're welcome to join us, but we all pitch in here. So unless either one of you is carrying one of them smoked West Virginia hams in them bags, it looks like you'll be pulling KP tonight. I said, pulling what, sir? He said, KP, kitchen police. You do cleanup after everyone's had their fill. There's a couple of other young folks who'll show you what you have to do. Me and Bugs both said, yes, sir. That seems like a real good trade. So they're going to have to clean some dishes. Well, kitchen duty. Okay, obviously there's not a legitimate kitchen, but they're going to have to clean dishes or whatever after they eat. And just wait till we hear what we're eating. The woman handed me and Bugs a flat, square, empty can. That, lords, is your china. Please be careful not to chip it. The china had the words Jumbo AP Sardines stamped into the bottom of it. That's a joke. I don't know if you've ever heard of china, like nice china. Your parents might have some. It's kind of not necessarily like as big of a thing as it used to be, but it's like your parents' nice plate. So this lady's like, oh, here's your china. Here's your nice plate. It's literally a tin can. You're not going to be able to chip it. It's a tin can. So she's kind of like joking with them. She handed us 2 beat-up old spoons and said, don't be shy. You two just missed supper. You better hurry up. Just about missed supper. You better hurry up. She took us over to the biggest pot and filled up our tin plates. You're lucky, she said. It's muskrat stew, and there's plenty left over tonight. Eat as much as you can. In case you're wondering, muskrat is like, it's like not a nice animal. People don't really eat it, okay? Like, I don't really know how to describe a muskrat. But anyways, the stew was made of dandelion greens, a couple of potatoes, some small wild carrots, some crawdads, and a couple little chunks of meat. It tasted great. We both even got seconds. Okay? So literally those are all things that you just find. Like somebody probably killed the muskrat. Crawdads, they probably found in the creek. Dandelion greens, you pull out of the ground. Someone probably found the potatoes and found the carrots. Okay? So that's probably not the most. And then the rest is probably water. And it's all just cooked together. When we were done, the woman told us, you boys leave your bags here. It's time to do the dishes now. Uh-oh. Ma'am, I'd like to keep my suitcase with me wherever I go. I promise you, your suitcase will be safe here. I remember the Amoses had promised the same thing. I said, you'll watch it yourself, ma'am? You'll make sure no one looks inside of it? She said, son, we don't have no thieving in here. We all look out for each other. I said, thank you, ma'am, and put my suitcase down near the woman's feet. Me, Bugs, and a little white boy and a little girl loaded up a whole mess of dirty tin cans and spoons and a couple of real plates and forks in a big wooden box and lugged them down to Thread Creek. The little girl had been in Hooverville the longest, so she got to tell the rest of us what to do. She said, I don't suppose neither one of you boys knows how to do dishes the right way, do ya? Me and Bugs said we'd done tons of dishes in the home. So I said, sure we do. Used to be real good at cleaning up. Bug said, dang, girl, you act like this is the first cardboard jungle I've been in. I know how to do dishes out here. She said, okay, then. We'll split them up. You and you. She pointed at Bugs and the other kid. You do half, and me and this boy will do the others. What's your names? I said, Bud, not Buddy. She said, I'm Deza Malone. Deza handed Bugs and the other little boy some rags and some soap powder, and they started splashing the dishes in the water. Me and the girl walked a little farther up the creek and started loading up the rest of the dishes. You dry, I'll wash, she said. She handed me a rag. Just as soon as she splashed one of the tin cans in the water, gives it to me, I dry it and stick it in the wooden box. She said, where you say you was from? Flint, right here. So you and your friend come down here to get on the train tomorrow? Where's it going? Chicago, she said. Is that west of here? Uh-huh. Then, yep, that's where we're heading, I said. Where are you from? Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You going to take the train too? She said, uh-huh. My daddy is. Folks say there's work out west and he's going to try again. So you going to wait here for him? Uh-huh. She was real fast at washing dishes. But I noticed she got kind of slow and was touching my hand a lot when she came to giving them to me. She said, where's your mama and your daddy? My mother died 4 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. She didn't suffer or nothing. So where's your daddy? I think he lives in Grand Rapids. I never met him. Sorry to hear that. Shucks, she held right onto my hand when she said that. I squirmed my hand loose and said, that's okay too. Deza said, no, it's not. You should quit pretending that it is. Who said I'm pretending anything? I know you are. My daddy says families are the most important thing there is. That's why me and my mama are going to wait together for him to come back or write us to come to him. I said, my mother said the same thing, that families should be there for each other all the time. She always used to tell me that no matter where I went or what I did, she'd be there for me, even if she wasn't somewhere that I could see her. She told me, shucks, there's some folks who will have you running your mouth before you know what you're doing. I quit talking and acted like I was having a real hard time drying the tin can she just handed me. What'd she tell you, bud? I looked at Deza Malone and figured I'd never see her again in my life, so I kept shooting off my mouth. That means he's just going to continue to talk. She would tell me every night before I went to sleep that no matter what happened, I could sleep knowing there had never been a little boy anywhere, anytime who was loved more than she loved me. She told me that as long as I remembered that, I'd be okay. And you knew it was the truth. Just as I know my name is Bud, not Buddy. She said, don't you have any other kin here in Flint? No. I guess I can't blame you for wanting to ride the rails. My mama says these poor kids on the road all alone are like dust in the wind. But I guess you're different, aren't you, Bud? I guess you sort of carry your family around inside of you, huh? I guess I do. Inside my suitcase, too. She said, so you've been staying in orphanages since your mama died? What makes you say that? Well, you're kind of skinny, but I can tell by the way you talk that you act like you haven't been out on the road very long. You still look young. I said, shucks, I'm not all that young. I'm going to be 11 on November 14th, and I'm not skinny. I'm wiry. Some folks think I'm a hero. So, Mr. Hero, we're the same age, but you have been staying in an orphanage. I've been staying in a home. My daddy says being on the road ain't fit for a dog, much less a kid. How come you don't go back to your orphanage? She started touching my hand too much again. Desmond alone seemed like she was all right, so I came clean to her. Don't tell no one, but I lit out from a foster home, so I'm on the lam and wouldn't go back to the home even if I could. It's getting so there's too many kids in there. So it's better than being cold and hungry all the time and the dodging the rail police. What do you mean? You think they just let people jump on the trains, do you? Well, I guess I hadn't thought about it. So I know you're too nice to have been out on the road. You're going to have bad surprise tomorrow morning. That won't bother me too much. She said, oh yeah, I forgot. You're a hero to some folks. Well, Dessa smiled. A little dimple jumped right into her brown cheek. I didn't answer. I just kept drying tin cans. We got to the last 4 or 5 tin can plates, and Dessa said, you ever kiss a girl at the orphanage? Uh-oh. Are you kidding me? No. Why? You afraid of girls? You must be kidding. She said, okay, and closed her eyes and mushed her lips up and leaned close to me. All right, we're going to stop right there for the day. So, just let you know, we just heard about them railroad police. I'm going to let you know, those railroad police are going to be a big part of the rest of chapter 8. So, dun, 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 dun. But apparently, Desmond Malone and him are about to kiss. But we'll finish that on Monday. We'll finish chapter 8. You do not need to finish chapter 8. Don't worry about it. We'll finish it together because it's really, really good. So, yeah, that's why. See, I'm being ornery. Mrs. Knifel's being ornery, and I'm leaving it just like that. So I'm going to leave it right there. I'll see you on Monday for this. Great job, guys. I'll repost this recording just in case.